The Supro Amulet gets a cool new style. Hey everyone, I'm Jack Fossett and welcome to this review of the new available version of the Supro Amulet, the Amulet 112. Now this is a small, lightweight, great recording or gigging amplifier that Supro's had for a while that originally came out in only a 110 format, and now they've also added the option to get it in 112. It's 15 watts, but it also has a built-in power soak, so you can run it at 15 watts, or you can also run it at 5 watts or 1 watt. I really like the power soak, and that's coming from someone who traditionally has not liked power soaks or attenuators. It works very naturally. I think that's one of the best ways I can describe this amp in general, is it's very natural sounding. Now the great thing about adding the 112 to an amplifier like this, first of all, is it is kind of a cool direct competition to those California boys and a certain famous 15-watt amplifier that they, or 12-watt sometimes amplifier that they make that's named after a famous battle in the American Revolution. You don't know what I'm talking about, do you? You know what I'm talking about from the amp, but not from the battle. You need to learn history. Of course, if you're watching this from another country, I wouldn't necessarily expect you to know every single battle in American history. I'm getting off topic. Let's stay on track here. The famous amplifier from the other company that's named after a city in New Jersey that has a famous school or a famous American Revolutionary. It's the Princeton. Come on, we all know what I'm talking about. Very common modification to the Princeton is to add a 12-inch speaker into it, but for that you need to get a different baffle and do all kinds of things and whatnot. So it's really cool to see Supro coming out with a direct sort of competition, because these amps are kind of in line with each other anyway, right? They're about the same size, they both have reverb and tremolo, and this one now gives several more options with the included power soak, and again also with the option of getting it in a 112 speaker configuration. Now the speaker that is in it is a UK Made Celestion Creamback. This is a speaker that I've had the opportunity to play in several different amps over the past couple years, and this is one of those speakers that has just really impressed me every time I've played it, to the point where I might say this is one of the best speakers you can have for an amp on the market. It's just sounded great in everything that I've played it in, so I think that's an awesome speaker for this amp to come with. I couldn't see it needing an upgrade. It just sounds great, and with the 112 it gives you a bit of a wider dynamic range than you might get from the 110. What's cool about it though is it still kind of has that, like, it doesn't sound like a small amp, but it doesn't sound massive either. It still has that sort of focus with slightly compressed edges like you can get from a small amp. And I think that's a really cool tool to have, either for gigging or for recording. Now, recording, this thing would absolutely shine. I really loved the tones I was getting with the power soak, again, as I mentioned, at 1 watt was getting like really, really great natural sounding crunch tones that would track beautifully, because also bringing it down to 1 watt, the EQ character changed slightly, which I'm going to talk about more in a minute here, and we're going to experiment with later on in the video. Now, as you heard at the beginning with the Telecaster, I was going for a crunch rhythm tone, kind of a classic rock rhythm tone. I was on 1 watt with the volume pushed, and I had the bass cut a little bit, and it really sounded like a small studio box. But then if you push the bass a little bit more, it kind of widens it back up to making it feel more like a regular sized amp. Now, this could be great for gigging. You know, a question I always get a lot about amps, particularly the size, is, you know, is it loud enough to gig with? That's a really hard question to answer with small to mid-size amps, and the reason is because it depends entirely on two things. It depends on how much clean headroom you need and how loud is your drummer. All right, I've been playing with two different drummers lately in a few different groups. One drummer plays an electronic kit. He's very, very reserved in the right way. He's kind of got a tasteful knack for volume. The other drummer plays a big kit, and he's kind of like Animal in the Muppets. Right. I can't use the same amps in each group because, you know, for this other group, I need more volume. I just need more in order to compete with that drummer. So this could be used for a lot of gigging situations and work great. Of course, if you're being mic'd, it's a moot point. It would be awesome, and it would especially be great because of its size, really easy to take around. It also takes pedals really well, which is nice, and I'm going to show you how it reacts to an overdrive pedal. Now, the reverb and the tremolo sound awesome. They sound very natural, just like the rest of the amp does. So what I'm going to do in a minute here is just give you a bunch of different tones. We're going to play several clean tones that I found inspiring, several different drive tones at various levels in the volume. Now, it doesn't have a gain knob. It just has the volume. And again, then you can get various levels and volumes of gain whether or not you use the power soak. But it does a great edge of breakup. It does a great bluesy kind of silky lead thing, and then it does all the way up to a really fat, rich, classic rock crunch. So I want to play through several different tones for you, including giving you samples of the reverb and the tremolo on various attenuation settings. And then at the end, what I'm going to do is play the amp wide open on each of the attenuation settings back to back. So you're going to hear it at 1 watt first, then at 5 watts, and then at 15 watts. Now, I've obviously adjusted the volume for the sake of the video, but you'll hear there's a slight difference in character too, right? It gets a little bit more compressed and slightly smaller sounding at 1 watt, and then, you know, big and more wide open and a little bit more raucous when you get up to 15 watts. So it gives you a lot of different options, and it could actually be an amp that you could use on stage and get real natural overdrive in a controllable way. So that's really cool. The guitars that I'm using today are a D'Angelico Deluxe 59 hollow body guitar, and I'm also using a Fender Telecaster that's loaded with a custom set of Singletone Pickups. So please let us know, what do you think of this amp in the comments? Do you have the other Supro Amulet, the 110, which is still going to be available? This is just another option. Do you have the 110? Would you be interested in the 112? Is that something that you think suits your style or suits this amplifier? I'm Jack Fossett. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Thank